Welcome to today's Explainer. Let's just dive right into one of the biggest, most pervasive cultural illusions out there, the illusion of wealth. You know, society, the media, Hollywood, they've all basically hardwired us to believe that wealth and hyperconsumption are exactly the same thing. We just naturally assume that if you have money, you're going to spend it lavishly, right? But what if the people who actually hold the real wealth in America live completely differently than we've been led to believe?
Let's try a quick mental exercise to kick things off. I want you to imagine two totally distinct profiles and try to guess which one actually has $1 million net worth. Okay, on one side we have a really sharply dressed trust officer, and on the other, a 35-year-old Texan who makes his living rebuilding heavy diesel engines. So, gut reaction, who looks more like a millionaire to you?
Well, look at the stark difference in the reality of their lifestyles. The trust officer is rocking a $5,000 watch, he buys these expensive custom suits, and he's leasing a current model imported luxury car. And the blue-collar Texan? Well, he's wearing jeans and a buckskin shirt, he drives a 10-year-old car, and he lives in a pretty modest lower-middle-class neighborhood right next to postal clerks and firemen. But here's the crazy part. The Texan is the actual self-made millionaire. Meanwhile, the trust officer, despite the high income and the flashy appearance, actually possesses just a tiny fraction of that wealth. No way, right?
So that brings us to Section 1, Big Hat, No Cattle, the Illusion of Wealth.
That phrase, big hat, no cattle, perfectly captures the whole theme we're exploring today. Looking rich and actually being rich are often complete opposites. The shiny artifacts of wealth, the luxury cars and the expensive watches, those are just the big hats. The actual net worth, the income-producing investments, true financial independence, well, that's the cattle. And this brilliantly illustrates the mindset of a true millionaire. Actually, that Texan entrepreneur shared a great story where his British business partners came over to visit his office. And because of the way he was dressed, they literally thought he was one of the truck drivers. They looked right past him. As he perfectly put it, I don't own big hats, but I have a lot of cattle. The reality is, actual wealth is typically hiding right next door behind a totally dull, normal blue-collar exterior.
And look, these insights aren't just random anecdotes. They come directly from the landmark study and book, The Millionaire Next Door, by Dr. Thomas J. Stanley and Dr. William D. Danko. We're talking about decades of really rigorous research here. Massive national surveys of households, face-to-face focus groups with hundreds of actual millionaires, the whole shebang. It's simply the most comprehensive data ever collected on who the wealthy actually are in America and exactly how they got that way.
Moving on to Section 2, the wealth equation. Do the math.
Let's take this from just a philosophy of wealth and turn it into mathematical reality. Honestly, how much should you actually be worth right now based on your age and your income? Well, this is the wealth equation, and I highly encourage you to do the math in your head right now. It's super simple. Step 1, multiply your age by your realized pre-tax annual household income. That's from all sources except inheritances. Then, step 2, just divide that number by 10. That final number, that is what your net worth should be. So as an example, if you're 41 years old and your household makes a total of $155,000 a year, your expected net worth comes out to exactly $635,500.
So think about it. Where do you stand on that wealth continuum? Let's look at two vital definitions here. If your actual net worth is twice your expected level, congratulations, you are a PA, a prodigious accumulator of wealth. You're a true builder. But if your net worth is half or less than your expected level, well, you're what they call a UAW, an under accumulator of wealth. The absolutely crucial takeaway here is that high-income earners are very frequently UAWs, simply because they spend literally everything they make just to support a high-consumption lifestyle.
To really make this real, let's look at this striking side-by-side comparison. Both of these guys are around 50 years old, and both earn roughly $90,000 a year. On one side, we have Mr. Richards, a mobile home dealer. He's a PA. His actual net worth is a cool $1.1 million. On the other side, Mr. Ford, an attorney. He's a UAW. His net worth is only $226,000. So why did the dull, normal business owner completely crush the high-status attorney in wealth accumulation? It's pretty simple. Mr. Ford, the attorney, has to spend way more of his income to display his family's upper-middle-class lifestyle. He needs the country club membership, the luxury car, the expensive suits. Mr. Richards, he doesn't need any of that.
Which leads us nicely to Section 3, Frugal, 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 the lifestyle of the real rich.
Frugality. It's basically an economy in the use of resources. And guys, it is the absolute true cornerstone of wealth building. To really wrap your head around this, just look at how the millionaire next door actually lives day to day. I absolutely love this story from the researchers. They once rented out this insanely posh Manhattan penthouse to host a focus group for decamillionaires, people worth over $10 million. So assuming these elite folks had highly refined tastes, the researchers brought out gourmet pâté, caviar, a vintage 1970 Bordeaux, the works. Well, the first guy to arrive was Mr. Bud, a 69-year-old commercial real estate owner in this really well-worn suit. When they offered him the fancy Bordeaux, he just looked totally puzzled and delivered this exact quote: "I drink Scotch and 2 kinds of beer, Free and Budweiser." And get this, during the entire 2-hour interview, not a single one of those decamillionaires touched the caviar or the vintage wine. They just ate crackers. It proves that true millionaires do not naturally adopt the expensive taste society expects of them.
Okay, let me ask you something. What do you think is the absolute most a typical millionaire has ever spent on a suit? Maybe $1,000? $3,000? $399. That's it. Over 50% of the surveyed millionaires in America have never spent more than $399 for a suit of clothing. Only a tiny fraction ever paid over $1,000. So who are the people buying those multi-thousand-dollar custom suits? Well, they're usually our friends, the under accumulators of wealth. They're middle managers, corporate execs, and attorneys who make great money but blow it all trying to look prosperous. Your typical millionaire business owner simply has zero need to impress anyone with a custom-tailored suit.
All right, Section 4. First-generation fortunes, discarding the lineage myth.
Whenever we think of wealthy Americans, we almost always picture old money, right? People born with a silver spoon in their mouth, inheriting vast estates like the Rockefellers or the Vanderbilts. But the data paints a completely different picture. Here is the massive statistical punchline: 80%. Fully 80% of American millionaires are first-generation rich. Let that sink in. That means they built their wealth entirely by themselves, in a single generation, slowly and steadily. They didn't hit the jackpot, they didn't sign a massive NBA contract, and they certainly didn't inherit it. They are just ordinary people who worked hard, practiced insane self-discipline, and lived well below their means.
Check out this breakdown of wealth by ancestry here. If wealth was really all about old money and lineage, you'd completely expect the English ancestry group, the direct descendants of early colonial America, to rank first in millionaire concentration. But they don't. They actually rank fourth. The Russian ancestry group takes the #1 spot, largely because they're highly entrepreneurial and heavily represented as owner-managers of businesses. But look closely at #2. The Scottish ancestry group. They have a massive concentration of wealth, yet over 60% of Scottish ancestry millionaires have annual household incomes of less than $100,000. How is that even possible? Well, they are hyper-frugal. They live in self-designed environments of relative scarcity, saving and investing huge portions of their moderate incomes. It's a real game changer.
And to really hammer home that behavioral choices completely trump lineage, just look at these numbers. More than half of America's millionaires never received so much as a single dollar in inheritance. 91% never received any ownership of a family business as a gift. Heck, nearly half never even got college tuition paid for by their parents. The data here is absolutely definitive. You do not need to be born wealthy to become wealthy. It's entirely about your actions, your thrift, and your everyday discipline.
And that brings us to Section 5, the 7 factors of wealth.
So if it's not about big inheritances or pulling in massive salaries, what is the exact blueprint these self-made millionaires are using? Well, researchers found 7 common denominators over their decades of study. 1. They live well below their means. 2. They allocate their time, energy, and money super efficiently to build wealth. 3, and I think this is a huge one, they believe that financial independence is way more important than displaying high social status. 4, their parents did not provide economic outpatient care or financial subsidies. 5, their adult children are economically self-sufficient. 6, they're great at targeting market opportunities. And 7, they chose the right occupation. Honestly, the ultimate secret weapon here is simply prioritizing your own financial independence over showing off a high-status lifestyle to your neighbors.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with a provocative question to think about. Take a hard look at your own spending habits, your lifestyle, and your priorities. Ask yourself, are you actually building cattle, or are you just buying big hats? Are you accumulating real, lasting wealth that's going to give you independence and security, or are you simply performing the illusion of wealth for the benefit of everyone else? Look, it definitely takes discipline and sacrifice to be the millionaire next door, but the path is open to anyone willing to walk it.
Thanks so much for joining us to explore this fascinating data today, and hey, keep building your cattle.